this idea that you can be okay saying, I don't know everything, or I want to figure out more, that's sort of been lost on us, right? It's like, especially because of social media, where everyone suddenly knows everything about the Iran nuclear deal and how to run healthcare.
Yes.
These people who can't tie their own shoes, but somehow they know everything about everything. So even coming from that humble place first, I think is how you make the connection.
In a space of business, think about your bosses. Think about how wonderful it feels when you bring a problem to your boss. When I'm on set as an actor and I go to my director and I say, this scene's feeling a little bit weird, I'm not sure what's going on. And when I see their eyes get insecure and then they come at me with a really strong answer so that they will seem confident, I lose all respect and I lose all confidence in what's happening. And when they look at me and they go, that's a really interesting idea and I don't know the answer to that. Let's see if we can figure this out.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank God, you're a human being, you're with me, you're one of me, and I am looking for tons more of that.
And don't you think there's way more people like that than we hear of? Because I truly believe that that's how most of us are, and we've just been caught.
Yeah.
We've been caught in the crossfire of Twitter and an age of judgment and all that, but most people that you meet on the street, it's what you just said. They'll want to sit down over a movie or beer, or it's why I like the gaming community so much, which I've sort of gotten into a little bit lately, because they're getting together over video games. And then then they'll be like, wait a minute, you're a libertarian, you happen to be a lefty, who cares? You know?
My brother and I have this thing that we do where whenever we have a really tough thing that we're disagreeing on to talk about, we go on a hike together because we realize we don't have to look each other in the eyes, we can just look forward.
Yeah.
And while we're focusing on not dying on the hike, the secondary element comes up and it's a lot easier to do and you're less defensive about it. And that defensive-ness, it's so human, it's so natural, I get it. I'm not like criticizing anybody for defending their position in an argument, but I'm giving that up right now,
Yeah.
So long story short, what ended up happening is as I reached out on Twitter asking for sort of, what are feelings of people who are on fire for Trump, Steven Crowder was the first guy who tweeted right back at me and he says, if you're willing to come on the show, I'll talk to you about it. So I was like, I've never even heard of him. I'm gonna look this guy up, and I looked up some of his clips and I was like, ooh, he's really good looking, he's really well built, he's extremely intelligent, if you can tell by looking at him. And he kind of bullies some people sometimes with his comedy, So I was like, so I went back straight and I was just like, if your interest is to bring me on here and wipe the floor with me with your like wealth of political prowess and my lack of political prowess, I'm not interested in that because I'm an easy target. Like, I don't know enough. And this is what you do all day long, And he said, no, I want to have a respectful conversation, and so I thought, as I do in therapy, I got to take this first step. I got to step into his environment and just see how we do. And I was so nervous. I was
it doesn't come across. I mean, there was a little moment at the beginning where you could feel a little tension between you guys, but then it just really went away pretty quickly.
I really think it was me. I was scared that I would be exposed for not knowing enough to have an intelligent political debate. But I realized, I really wasn't there to debate. What I was there to do was to ferret out some possible connections and to learn, really, and I just kind of opened myself up and just said, look, I don't really know what I'm doing. I want to learn, and if I have anything useful to offer here, it's probably in the fact that I have tons of liberal friends who I can go back to them and say, I learned something here by listening. And I did. I learned a bunch of really great things on there. And so it wasn't really a plan of mine, but it kind of spiraled. And you reached out to me from there, and Glenn Beck reached out to me and said, let's try and find this stuff. And I'm getting excited about this potential of what we can do as a connection point. And so I've started to pinpoint charities as maybe a place where, who doesn't feel good when they're giving? Maybe this is an easy spot for us.
Right.
Again, maybe that's going to be the Big Lebowski of the political spectrum.
Yeah, and now it sounds like you might be going to Africa.
So Glenn Beck and I are going to Africa.
I had him on. He didn't ask me to go to Africa.
Well, the truth is, well, I'm not going to get into that. So yeah, it was, we had a really...
I was going to go wherever you were about to go there. Yeah. I could see it happening.
Yeah, it was about to be a 20-minute run down that wormhole, but I was like, leave that for next time.
Yeah.
But yeah, my conversation with Glenn was really great because, he and I really do disagree on so many things, and we laughed about the fact that we should have been screaming at each other on that show. If we and if we had chosen to pick apart the things we disagreed with, we would have.
Yeah.
We would have yelled, But we found two very quick and easy things. My strong penchant towards independence in business dovetails with his libertarianism. We could connect on that, and we're both big charity guys, And so it was like, great. Let's just look at these two things. And we had a lovely conversation. And we'll go to Africa and we'll raise a bunch of money for, a lot of this really problematic sex slave trade stuff that he's really involved in. And I will lend my face to it and whatever that helps. And it's great. And, I got a lot of shit for going on Glen Beck.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you.
I got a lot of shit. I got a lot of his fans were, to be honest with you, they were incredible. They reached out and they were just like, thank you so much. I don't agree with anything because I know what you're kind of up to politically. But like the fact that you're just trying to take a stand and to reach your hand out was really great. And like honestly, like a lot of my liberal fan base was just like, what are you doing? All he's doing is trying to use you to get a good look for himself because he's in trouble.
So I get the exact same. I had literally when he sat in that chair, I got the exact same thing. So I'm curious what your response.
So my response is, I don't know Glen Beck well enough to know what his intentions are, but let me lay out two possible ones for you. One, guy's having a hard time in his life. He's gone through some serious personal issues. He's found some religion. He's really turned around, and he's definitely interested in charity, and it's a pure altruistic motive. That's easy and maybe a little idealistic, but in that scenario, we win. I'm going to Africa with the guy, and we're going to do some good. Second scenario. Glen Beck is a sociopath. Glen Beck is only using me to get a good look. 6 months later, he's going to say something else crazy on the show. And you know what? You're going to go to Africa with him, and you're going to raise a bunch of money for sex slave trade. Look at the end results. You're going to go to Africa with Glen Beck, and you're going to raise a bunch of money for kids who need it.
Yeah.
I don't care what his motivation is, and I can't possibly know it truly. At the end of the day, I'm finding a sliver of connection. We're providing a model for people to look at that says, oh my God, these guys are really different on paper. And we were able to have laughs and connect over these couple of things and make it work. So like, I might discover 3 or 4 months down the line that I did some form of enabling or something, and I'm willing to admit there may be a problem, but I'm not seeing it right now. And
but
my
also,
instinct is telling me connect, and if the connection does some ancillary good, this is a good thing.
But for your fan base that's giving you shit on something like that, doesn't that it shows sort of a lack of faith in what they think you are? I don't mean that in an offensive 100%. Way to you, but my policy on this when I've gone on Glenn's show or had him here or plenty of other people, I went on Alex Jones' show a month ago, and people were so angry at me on the left. And I said, guys, we aired it live. He said it's 100% live. They didn't do any pre-interview or anything.
Great.
I said, all I'm going to do is say the things that I believe, and maybe, just maybe, some conservatives or alt-righters or whatever his audience is going to hear me and go, you know what, that guy's kind of interesting. Let me check out what he's doing, and then I'll have shown them what a decent liberal is.
Another side. By the way,
it's a dismissiveness of us in a bizarre way, as if we don't know what our own faculties are.
And in all fairness, I would say like. I'm not that offended that I would be dismissed because I'm very new to this space. They could say, Mark, you're just stepping into something dangerous here.
You're putting yourself out there, so it's irrelevant.
So, but what I found even the most powerful, or at least in my limited time reaching out and what I'm doing here, is as I erroneously and previously thought, if you voted for Trump, you are essentially some form of a racist because you are promoting this person. And then I look a little closer and I'm like, okay, there are a lot of people that are just scared. They feel like their jobs are going away. They're a little in-group, out-group, and they're thinking and they want to protect their community. I used to think that way in New Orleans. I was a little in-group, out-group. I can understand that, and maybe they are not directly racist like I might have thought they were. On the flip side, I'm realizing that my profile, the rich white male elitist Hollywood libtard thing, I mean, like, we are being majorly profiled. I don't feel sorry for myself. My life is good, and a lot of us are yelling. But by going on to Crowder, by going on to Glen Beck, and just being one person of this group who listens and says, and in my group of friends, we want to hear, we want to listen. That has been the biggest thing, is just hearing from conservatives, hearing from Glen Beck's fan base, Crowder's fan base, thank God you're willing to listen, because we really thought all you guys just hated us and didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know? And that's a real bummer. That's where we've gotten that gridlock. You know?
So does that make you think that there's more? I mean, I think I already know the answer to
Yeah.
this, but that there's really a lot of room to build bridges there? Because what I'm struggling with right now is I'm having trouble building bridges with people on the far left right now. Not even far left, but just the basic progressives that use all these buzzwords that you and Crowder talked about, this racist, bigot, homophobe, Islamophobe. I'm having a lot of trouble building bridges there. I'm trying, but I'm not having trouble building bridges the other way, because I see guys like Beck and Shapiro and Prager, who I disagree with on God stuff and abortion and death penalty and all kinds of stuff, but that we're sort of able to agree to disagree, and I don't see that coming out of the left right now.
Yeah, you know, I'm not deep enough into this, honestly, because all I'm doing is reaching out to the right now, because that's just like, that's the new side for me, you know? So I don't really know what that means on the left, and I guess there's also a distinction between like the thinkers, the talkers, the leaders, and then just the general constituents, you know? So, but what I've definitely found is that when I am a moderate, open listening voice, conservatives across the board are really appreciative of it, and they generally have a belief that most liberals hate them and are ready to call them all racists and aren't listening. And that is really not happening amongst all my friends. I don't feel like that, but the message, it looks like that on Twitter. It really does.
Yeah,
you know?
How much of that is just general, like, kind of the way that Hollywood and the media frames things? So, like, I get it. Your friends are probably more tolerant liberals, right? Like, that don't hate everybody in the middle of the country, 100%. And many of them probably came from the middle of the country. But just the stuff that Hollywood and the media kind of put out, making everyone in the middle of the country look backwards and making traditional values or whatever look archaic and that kind of thing.
I would blame all media across the front, because I look at Fox News in the morning and I want to check out what's going on there, you know, and I'd say they're both, just like anyone in an unhealthy argument, gridlocked into their positions, and the more they feel threatened by the other side, they just start clenching that sphincter harder and harder and harder to hold on to it. So, you know, I personally, again, not nearly as well read and researched as you have been along these lines, but when I look at those headlines, I see both sides in a major gridlock and a fear that if they give up 1 inch and say, well, maybe you are right, that they're going to lose all of their ground and all of the what they've gained. And to me, again, bringing it back to that unhealthy marriage thing, where it's just like, man, you got to be the first one to step in and say, all right, maybe I'm missing something. Can you explain to me your point? And it's just the word validate. Where has the word validate gone? Like, to just sit there and listen and be like, your opinion as a human being is valid, and I'm going to hear it before I start yelling. I mean, that is just gone in the political conversation, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. It's like, we live in a country of 300-something million people. The whole point is we all came here from different ethnic backgrounds and economic and all this, and we're supposed to disagree. We're not supposed to destroy each other in the process, but that's kind of gone. Yeah,
so like now that I've been thinking about, like, okay, what can I contribute to this? What can I do to push this forward? I really, again, I keep bringing back to this lowest common denominator thing, and my next question that I went out with, I said, I think charity is a good space for us to cross the divide and do some, bipartisan change together. So I said, conservatives, what are the things that you value, and what are the charities that you think kind of suck? Got some great answers on that. Most things I knew was like, we like to give to our churches because we trust how they give locally, and I was like, that's going to be a little harder for the left to get on board because of the religious aspect. They really valued efficiency in giving, and like feeling that conservatism, just like, I want to know where the money's going, and I want to know that it's not bloated to a bunch of people's salaries, and I want to be able to track it. I was like, good, that will dovetail with the left. They'll feel good about that. One thing that I really was surprised about is how much the left and the right love foster care. That was like a big thing for both sides, which is just like, and I was like, okay, the kids thing is going to be big. So I was like, who doesn't like kids? So then education for kids was enough, and then health for kids was enough. And then there were 2 blind spots that I loved finding, one on the left, one on the right. Big left blind spot is veterans. Nobody on the left supports veterans, and I think it's because it is unfairly tied to military spending, where the left's like, don't give it to the military, give it to education. and then you hear veterans and you kind of like, it's a big blind spot on the left. It's like, we got to take care of these dudes.
It's so interesting you say that, because I even know, or I'll see on Memorial Day or Veterans Day, that my friends on the left very rarely will even tweet out
They
something.
don't do that, yes.
And I think you're totally right. It's that they don't want to be seen somehow as if they would just say that it's good to be a veteran, or thank you, veterans. You know, even in a war that even if you haven't thought our last few wars were just, that you might think World War II is just, there are veterans from World War II. But they don't do it because they think that somehow will tacitly mean they endorse colonialism.
Military spending, 100%. So that's a blind spot. And when I challenge anyone on the left for 30 seconds, they get it immediately and it's clean. Likewise, on the right, there's a little bit of this all-pervasive America first attitude that gets a little clinchy. It's like, protect myself. We don't have enough money here. And so a lot of times there's a lot of like third world great work that can be done that they generally agree with once I explain it. Like, I'm like, we believe in giving out fishing poles and not fish, and teaching people how to do it so that we don't have to be there to continually take care of them. Great. We can install these clean water systems for like 42 cents a day over the course of a month. And then it's there and they're getting clean water. That appeals to your sense of efficiency. I know it's not at home, but whenever I give that to the right, they're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense.
Do you find that they're willing to do that without the religious attachment to that? Because there is obviously a lot of religious outreach, like in South America, you'll see, you know, Mormon missionaries or Christian missionaries that'll do a lot of that. But I wonder without the religious
I didn't get
part.
that far into the difference between whether it worked with or without religion to back it up, but I did a Give Directly campaign. Was my first campaign. It was the first charity that I picked because they were doing a variety of different things. They're hyper efficient. They're like giving nearly 100% of what they give. And so I ran the campaign based around them because it was like, a lot of it was clean water systems, a lot of it was health for third world countries, a lot of it was some basic domestic care, and it had some foster care issues. Highly curated. You can track where the money goes. You can track the story of that family as they improve. And so once I tweeted that all out, I was like, okay, guys, conservatives, liberals, we're good. Give Directly. Everybody was like, yeah, we're good. So I was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm putting down $10,000. I'm going to ask all of you guys, I have 380,000 followers on Twitter. If 10,000 of you give $1, you're going to match me. And then Give Directly reached out to Google and got them to promise if we were able to make 20,000, they would give 20,000.
Wow.
And in 36 hours, we raised $50,000. Wow. So I was like, okay, we're on to something here. That got me really, really excited. And I think it was it was the Sam and Diane from Cheersness of it. It was the opposites attractness. Was slightly perversely exciting to conservatives and liberals alike, that it was just like, I am sleeping with the enemy right now. Like, there was this excitement that we were all giving into something and sharing it. And I really feel like has the potential to be contagious, you know? So I'm gonna try to start building these campaigns slowly. And I mean, I went in with Beck yesterday, and he was like, whatever you put down on your next one, I'm gonna match. Wow. So now I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna be like, all right, Judd, who I'm friends with, I know you fucking hate all these people, but like, you're rich and I need your money because I got some conservatives, I got some libertarians. Let's all come in and then try and make it a bigger campaign, you know? And my thing is just like, there are all these people out there like Wells Fargo, like, you have the worst look in the world right now. Like, I will sacrifice myself and come in and shake your hand and take a picture next to your sign. But you gotta like pony up $100,000 match for me if we can do it, you know? So that's gonna be my thing. It's just like, if we can get the positive feeling you get from charitable giving going, and we can start to like share these things and maybe even commingle at a party every now and then. By focusing on that stuff, you know, might we, like you're saying, while we're gaming, might some other stuff spill out? And I literally don't know if it's going to work. You know? But my feeling is the worst case scenario is that it crashes and we raised some money for some people who needed it. So that would be good enough for me.
I suspect that's not going to be the case, because it sounds like you've got nice momentum, and this is what everyone's just begging for some bridge building. They're begging for it, and they don't know where to turn. And
they don't know where to turn, exactly. You know, and so I'm like, all right, well, what do I have a little bit of a surplus of? You know, and it's just like, the thing that I can give right now is money. I've been lucky enough to make money, and I want to like put that stuff down and put my voice out there and just and see where we can go with it. So we'll see. I'll know a lot in a few months.
Yeah. Do you think some of this can trickle up to the political part? And I know you said you're not
Yes,
a
yes,
political analyst.
yes.
But that if we can start building some of it here, that actually our politics will change. Because I look at the Democrats and Republicans,
Yeah.
almost everyone involved in politics. There's so few people that I think are really good at what they do, or really, to me, Rand Paul, who I have certain disagreements with, he's the closest I see to someone that sort of has the things that I believe in. And
Well, I see people taking steps. I see like a guy like Van Jones who like steps up and he's just like, it's the love army and we're going to bridge the divide, but then he gets triggered and then he falls back, and I forgive that. I really do, because I'm just like, I get it, dude. Nobody's perfect, Like, so I'm seeing like the seeds of it. I really like, have you heard of his cut 50-50 deal that he's doing?
No.
It's really interesting. I think it bears mentioning with your question of, can this charitable giving in the private sector maybe find a way to get into the political sector? What's happening is he has a friendship with Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich was a mentor to him. Apparently.
Yeah, they were on Crossfire together.
Yeah, so they're buds, despite all the differences. So I was like, oh, that's good. And they both agree that the political system is in the shitter. Neither of them knows exactly how to fix it or is opinionated, but they both have come to the agreement that like there are a lot of people in jail who don't need to be in jail. We're bleeding a lot of money there that we don't need to have there. And a big portion of them, are a lot of black males that have come out of the like war on drugs from the 80s and the 90s that are serving these like life sentences for marijuana and stuff like that. So they are trying to do a cross the aisle initiative together as these two guys from different sides to say like, let's try and cut down 50% of these people who are in prison for no reason and rehabilitate them and spend the money there. And that has been a bipartisan thing that they have been able to agree on, and they really believe that they're going to get everybody to come in. So, okay.
For the record, I do have to mention that I invited Van Jones on the show. He publicly said yes, and his people have privately said no. A lot of people are asking me.
Van! All right. Love Army.
You made the point. I like you're a pro. You went right to the camera. It was very, it was very professional. But it's interesting. I think he's a particularly interesting case of this because he's a progressive, and I see him use some of the words that you mentioned earlier, where he calls people racist very quickly, in my opinion. I want him on the show. I respect him. I think we'd have a great discussion. But then every now and again, I see him throw a bone to Trump. And then I watched the left turn on him. Yeah. So I don't know if you saw the night that Trump gave the big speech, the congressional speech.
He was like, oh, he's becoming presidential.
And what happened, Keith Olbermann, who I think is starting to lose his mind, just between us, he tweeted that Van's a sellout.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute, he just heard something, listened to it in and of itself, and made a call. And that's why I want to talk to the guy. But this constant politics of destruction.
There is a fear. There is a fear on the left that to validate anything means you are enabling something, and you cannot do this. And I, as I have started to reach out, am doing, in all honesty, a lot better with backlash than I thought I would. I'm not getting a ton from the left saying like, how dare you try to reach out at all. I'm getting little bits here and there. And like I said, I got a little bit with Glenn, like, why are you going to Africa with Glenn and doing this kind of thing, So I'm not getting as much of that, but I understand what you're talking about, and I think that is real. I can't speak with any experience about what it means to be on the right and reach out to the left. Yeah. Are you seeing people do that?
Yeah, because
who's doing that?
Glenn.
Yeah, Glenn.
I mean,
Glenn's one.
Glenn's one. I've had a couple other guys like Shapiro and Prager and a few others that, again, I have these major differences with. You know, like that a guy like Prager, who's really not for gay marriage. He's kind of hedging it a little bit with, I don't want the government involved. Right. My studio's in my house. I'm married to a man. I mean, but I'm willing to have that conversation, and I don't think he stares at me and puts me in judgment. But I'm never going to get him to come to my side by berating him. You homophobe. Barack Obama ran for president 9 years ago, was not for gay marriage. Do you think he was a homophobe? Yeah. So it's like, we got to let people change. Yeah.
That is the way I feel. And it's a very delicate thing going on here. And I don't like to talk about it too much, but a lot of the reaching out that is happening right now, even though there's not a ton of it, is with the intention of come here, I want to listen to you and validate your opinion, and I'll put my arms around you, but at the same time, they're going to reach their arm around and put your finger up your ass and say, I'm going to change you, and I'm going to do it with a hug. And that shit is a little evil. And I got to admit that even when I first started reaching out, I realized subconsciously, I think I might be just trying to be gentle so I can show them the error of their ways.
But isn't that where you just have to be not only confident in what you believe and what you say, but also, I mean, I have to believe this as an interviewer because I try to talk to people all over the place, that you have to trust that other people have the faculties to realize what's happening too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They have to know some things. And look, I struggle a lot with this whole thing of just the basic conservative tenet of let's save on taxes, and these programs that we want to cut, I want to cut them because the government shouldn't be involved, and because this should be a private sector thing, and the private sector should give charitably to HUD or this or whatsoever, and then by cutting taxes, those people will give. My thing is just they're not going to give, and then nobody's going to get the care they need. So even though you say
do you think they won't though? Because I think that we may have a little difference on this one. Because 6 months ago I probably would have said that.
You would have said that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I've changed on this because I think you're giving me evidence that they would change because you just told me about it. A lot of charity
they will give, and I hope.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm talking about in a big global way. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to kind of look to right now is a little bit of a test and call people on some things through these campaigns and say okay, I'm gonna challenge you on the right, I'm gonna challenge you on the left. The left challenges are actually really easy. You voted for Hillary Clinton, okay. I'm not gonna stick you to this, but let's just for argument's sake say that if your vote happened exactly how you wanted it, you would be in a tax bracket that's much higher than the tax bracket you're about to incur. So you are already ready to give away 8 to 10% more of your salary than you're going to have to give away next year because Trump's in there, he's going to cut those taxes. Mm-hmm. So why don't you pledge half of that to charity to give to the people that are being cut? Yeah. And let's go in big. I'm ready. I've talked to my wife about it. I'm just I'm in a 52% tax bracket right now. And what's that going to come down to with Trump? I don't know. You probably know more.
Right.
What's it going to be?
I don't
43,
know, but
44?
Yeah, it'll be a little less than it would have been. Yeah.
That's a pretty significant amount of money.
Yeah, and already you live in California where your state taxes are insane.
So I'm just all right, if you're on the left and you voted for Hillary, you're ready to give that money away. I'm not going to ask for all of it, but I want half of it. And let's go in big and let's save these programs. We can't change the fact that we have a conservative government and they're going to want to cut these programs and they believe they're going to come from a private sector. We can't change that for the next 4 years. What we can do is just try to go ahead and privately fund it with the money we saved. And so maybe we can develop this system of hey, a Democrat's in power, you know what? You're getting taxed a little bit more, get a little bit less this year. You know what? Conservatives in power right now, taxes are coming down. Let's use that money that you get taxed for, and then maybe we can just be juggling all these programs and kind of keep them afloat that way.
What's interesting is you're using a very sort of libertarian idea there in that you're really putting it back to the individual.
Sure.
You believe something, well, quite literally show me the money if you believe in something.
And and you and I might disagree, and I could be proven wrong in 6 months that I believe that once people get some money in their bank account, they're only going to let 30% of it go at tops. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm loving I literally I had no conversation with Glenn Beck, and I know he's worth a lot of money, but to have him within 30 minutes of talking to him on the phone be whatever you're willing to put down on your next campaign, I'm going to match it dollar for dollar.
Yeah.
And he, and
I'll jump in on something with you, but I can't give you Beck money.
All right. By the way,
we're not at the Beck level around here.
Exactly. Well, that's the key to all of this stuff. Is just I got dollar contributions from my fan base, and we were able to compound that, and make that into $50,000.
Yeah. Well, I will gladly figure out a way. Not just, I'll donate some money, but I'll also figure out a way to help you get this thing out there.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Let's
run a test. Let's run a test and see what happens.